Are you doing everything that you can to keep yourself safe? This is a question that I'm asking you, Bestie, because we live in such a wicked world, and unfortunately, there are predators out there that specifically target real estate agents, and this entire episode is going to be dedicated to helping you to making sure that you safeguard yourself. There are some precautionary things that you can do just to make sure that you are always keeping your safety in the forefront. Hey friends, I'm Rosemary Lewis, your homegirl, and I'm so excited that you are here. I do not care what it looks like on Instagram or HGTV. This whole being a realtor thing is not for the faint at heart. In 2017, I quit my job as a teacher to follow my real estate dreams and quickly found myself overwhelmed and struggling. Fast forward to today. Not only have I been recognized as one of the leaders in our industry, I have actually grown a business that I absolutely love. I don't care if you're a brand new agent trying to figure out how to get started or a veteran feeling overwhelmed and just stuck. I was just like you, and I totally get it. Many times I wish there was someone that I could just talk to about all the challenges I was facing. And that is why I created this space just for you. Like best friends do, I'm giving you all the tea related to navigating and thriving in these real estate streets. If I can do it, guess what? That's proof that you can too. Everything's better with friends, so let's succeed together. Welcome to the Real Estate Bestie podcast. So this whole idea, I've been wanting to do an episode like this for a while, but with all of the NAR drama, and now we talking elections and interest rates, are they up or are they down? Shame on me, your bestie. I should have had this conversation with you a little bit earlier, but don't worry, we are having it now. And what really prompted it was, a couple of weeks ago now, there were news reports everywhere about a real estate agent in Canada who took off early one morning to show rural property. She was a high profile agent, and unfortunately, that sister never made it back home. There were, people who actually targeted her because she was a high profile agent, and unfortunately, she is no longer here. And I do want to say this, that I am in no way saying that precautionary measures were not taken, but what I am saying is that I, for one, know that I have put myself in situations where, thank God, nobody was out to get me because I didn't do everything that I could at the time to make sure that I kept my safety at the forefront of my mind. So we're going to talk about it today. So here is the first thing that I want to point out. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because I don't want this video, this podcast to become a debate on, gun laws or violence or anything like that. But I will say, have some sort of way to physically protect yourself. A lot of what we're talking about are just some different ways to go about your appointments when you're out showing homes and when you are meeting new people and all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, when it hit, I pray it never hits the fan. But if it, do y'all know what hit the fan mean? Okay, I'm from Chicago. So hit the fan means like when it gets real, like when you look around and you're like, okay, I am in a critical situation and I need to react. Make sure that you have a way to protect yourself, okay? So go ahead and look at what is allowable in your state. I don't know if it's a state where you are licensed to carry, if you're able to have other protective gear like mace, if you need to take a kung fu class, I don't know what it needs to be. But I do believe that every woman, and I'm preaching to myself, I know my husband's looking at this like, riddle me that. We need to have a way to protect themselves. I like to feel like I can fight. It may need to be something a little bit more streamlined than just I can fight, so that if, again, when danger is right in front of you, that you will have some sort of way to physically protect yourself in the moment. But let's talk about some other things that we can do before we get to the moment. And let me back up. I'm just moving so fast. This may be your very first time watching a video if you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening to the podcast. Hey, I am Rosemary. I am your real estate bestie. And this entire real estate bestie movement podcast, it is dedicated to helping women in real estate build both a life and a business that they love. And listen, heavy on the life with this episode, right? We want you to live a long life and to equip you with just some good common sense. Like, common sense ain't always common. And I'm speaking again to myself because I put myself in some interesting situations. This whole episode is dedicated to helping you be a little bit more proactive. So let's talk about the first tip I want to give you. The first tip is probably more so geared towards your buyer scenarios, because I do understand that a lot of times when we're meeting with sellers for the first time, we may be meeting with them in their homes. But listen, this is an opportunity to just kind of change that as well. Before you meet with anybody, I'm talking a brand new person you never met with, listen, do some pre-qualifying for the appointment. And I am speaking directly to my young realtor self, right, who was just so excited to get a yes, like, yes, they're going to meet me, and yes, they're going to, they're interested in the house, that I skipped a whole lot of steps that I should not have skipped and could have put my safety in jeopardy, right? And this is one of the reasons why I am so proactive on two things. Number one, before you meet someone at a home, to make sure that they are pre-qualified and that you have some sort of like video or Zoom meeting with them prior to that first appointment. And I know you might be like, pre-qualified, like what does that have to do with safety? But just go with me here though. Think about it. If I am going to rob somebody, or if I want to do somebody harm, when I call them and say, hey, Rosemary, I want to see a house, and Rosemary responds like, great, I want to get you at my lender, talk through the pre-approval process, and then we're going to have a buyer's consultation. Like, I'm not trying to do all that, right? Because I'm a Mr. Robber man. So if somebody is truly, truly interested, then they're not going to do, they're not going to push back, number one, on, talking to your preferred lender, to meeting with you on Zoom. If they say that they're already pre-approved, great, send me over the pre-approval. But even when I have that Zoom meeting, like part of the process, and now we all have to have a buyer representation agreement signed before we can even open a door for someone. So part of that process, my onboarding is like, great, I'm going to send you over a buyer representation agreement. If you could just reply back to that email with a copy of your state government issued ID, right? Because I want to make sure that who I'm talking to and who I'm meeting with is exactly who I'm dealing with. And the same thing, like when you have somebody and you, like, let's just say they already don't have a pre-approval and they haven't spoken with the lender yet, and yeah, I'm just leave it at that. When you send them to your lender is going to go take a deep dive, right? They're going to look at credit. They're going to look at their social security number. They're going to vet them. And the more that you're able to vet them, chances are they are who they say they are. So please, please, please do not skip that process. And I'm going to strongly encourage you to meet first via Zoom. And that is also something that you can do with sellers. Now, I will be honest and tell you that the majority of sellers that I serve and have had an opportunity to serve, like we have had some sort of like, either they come from referral. So I have that vouching from, and I have really dug into deeper and I know a little bit more about their situation or their neighbor or their past client. But there have been times in my career where I have gone to a seller's house. Like when I was on a team, when I first started out, the team did a lot of internet leads. We did a lot of cold calling, and there were more than a few times that I would just show up to a seller's house for a listing appointment. And if I could go back and do it all over, right? I definitely might have a quick Zoom like introduction with them. But if nothing else, when I go to that listing appointment, I'm going to take somebody with me. I remember very, very vividly going to a listing appointment. I thought I did all the right things, right? When I was on the phone, I verified who I was talking to, set up the appointment for like the next evening. I made sure that like both husband and wife would be there because I was like internet calling and I was on the phone with the husband. And when I got to the property that next day, first of all, it was very weird because nobody answered the door. And I went around, like just the way that the house was situated, I could see that someone was like working on a car in like the carport by the garage. And make a long story short, it was the husband. He's like, oh. And I could just clearly tell that he was discombobulated. I could clearly tell that he had been consuming alcohol. But me, my old, whatever self, I still walked into that house, right? when we walk into the house, the wife isn't there. And I'm not going to say that he was trying to harm me, but I just had like a sixth sense, like, this is not a good situation. Like, the house was darker. There was like, it was kind of mazy. I excused myself from that situation because I just did not have good vibes. And, I made I think that I like quickly like texted my husband and, said, I don't know what I did. Like, I tried to make somebody call me to say something came up, but I got my butt out of there. And in hindsight, right, having a meeting with them or taking somebody with me for that for that initial appointment would have at least, like, that was a safety precaution that I missed out on, right? So when you are going to the seller's homes, if you are not already in some sort of relationship and, you haven't had a way that you can vet them or anyone vouch for who they are, because they in their house, right? They know all of the little nooks and crannies and things going on. Then take somebody with you, okay? Take somebody with you. That's definitely something you could do. Here is another safety precaution that I'm going to encourage you to do, is there are so many different apps. Forewarn is one. There are like other apps that may be through your local board where you can actually do a reverse lookup. Like, you can look people up just to, again, see if there are any criminal histories and things like that. That is definitely, as the example that I gave you of the seller's home that I went to, I probably should have looked homie up, right? When I didn't. So find out from your broker. You can call your local Realtor Association board if you are a member of the National Association of Realtors. Or look, just do a Google search. Like, what are some ways that I can look people up and do a background check? Do you have a friend? Like, I know that I have had friends in law enforcement that I've asked them to do reverse lookups for me, just again to make sure that, and this is especially when you go to like sellers' houses, because you can look at the tax roll, and that's something too. Like, is the person you're talking to on the phone, is this the same name that's on the tax roll, right? If the tax roll says Randall Johnson, but I'm on the phone with Bobby Johnson, okay, Bobby, where is Randall, right? Because sometimes criminals, they don't really think that through, like it should match. So, doing a lookup to see exactly who you are actually meeting with. Now, here is another tip that I want to share with you. Make sure that there is always somebody who knows where you are. My husband and I, my family, we use Life 360, and that is an app that we use 99.9% of the time. My husband always knows where I'm at. When I'm headed to an appointment, y'all, make an announcement. Let your friends know. Let your family know. I have about 3 friends that I share a location with. I know some people are like, I don't want anybody all of my business. People need to be in your business, right? Because if you go missing, we don't need you to be missing for no hours, right? Like, if I say I'm going to a listing appointment and I'm not walking out, or I'm not calling my husband, or I'm showing a buyer or whatever, he knows how long these appointments should last, right? So you need to make sure that somebody has your location and access to know where you are, and train your people to be like, look for me, right? And I'm not saying that you have to be, I don't want you to live a life that is full of fear. But even with my kids, right? Like, if it's been a couple hours and I haven't heard from my kids, my son, he's 24 years old, I'm looking to see, okay, location-wise, is he where he's supposed to be? So definitely look into some location tracking services and share your location with people that you trust, okay? This is why we want you to have real life real estate besties that you can do life and you can do business with, but also so that we can be keeping each other safe, okay? Now, let's talk about just some logistical things too. How about where you park? This is one that I don't think many people think about. When you are out showing homes, because like, let's just say that your client isn't the predator, right? Let's say you are being watched, or a house is being watched, and y'all know how it is. Sometimes we end up showing some houses in some questionable neighborhoods, and you just never ever know what somebody's intention might be. So when you are parking, when you're showing homes and when you're parking, stop parking in the driveways, okay? Park in a space where you can easily pull out, give yourself room where you can back up, where if you need to like make a quick decision, your car is positioned in a way where you are not going to get stuck. And think about it, if you're parked in a driveway, you pull into a house, you pull into a driveway, if a predator tries to come into that house while you and your clients are showing, all they got to do is block y'all's cars and now you are stuck, okay? So you might have to book it and run. And while we're talking about this, I know I'm not like going in any particular order, but that's just the way my brain is working. Put on some shoes that will allow you to break free if you need to. And this may sound so crazy, but anytime I would do an open house, and because I like to wear a heel for open house, like I think that there are some scenarios where a heel just completes an outfit, but I am not going to ever put on like a strappy situation. I would always wear a pump that I can easily kick off and run or kick off and use as a weapon. So you want to make sure that you are dressing in a way, particularly with your feet. I'm not telling you to show up with Jordans on, but I am saying like if you need to kick off some shoes and run down the street, or if you need to fling a heel at somebody, you ain't got no time to be unstrapping that shoe. So definitely think through that. Okay, and then here's probably the last thing that I'm going to say about it. I just want you to trust your instincts, right? I know that sometimes we don't want to be extra jumpy or but trust your instincts. Like literally, like if you feel unsafe for whatever the reason, whether it's the client, whether it's the community, if it's a home and you're showing it in a not such a desirable area, maybe you're showing it early in the day. Like do things that are going to make it make sense for you, because at the end of the day, we want you to make it home. And if there is anything that is making you uneasy and making you not feel safe, if all of the stuff ain't lining up, like, okay, well, they said, that they gonna back cash, but, they haven't followed up and sent you any documentation that they're supposed to, and you don't know who you really supposed to see, but it's your first time showing $1 million home, baby, that money is not worth your life, okay? I just really want to harp on that, because in no way is it worth your life. In no way is it worth you losing your life or you becoming hurt because we are chasing dollars. So what we got to do, right, is use, like, I know even myself, and I said this when I started, there have been some situations that I found myself in that if I was to be harmed, I almost would have opened myself up to that. And I'm gonna give you a great example. And here's a tip too. There was a long time that it didn't dawn on me to, like, after I would go and show a house, to lock the door behind me, right? And I know I'm not the only one. So this is, you open up the super box, I get the super box key, I put it in my pocket, I'm rolling, and not remembering to lock that door behind you. There was one time where me and my client and her husband came and saw the house. Like, he was meeting us later, and she and I were upstairs, and it was like a big house, like 3,000 or 4,000 square feet. We are upstairs, and we did not hear him come in because I didn't lock the door. I didn't lock the door, and he thought that it was being funny, like he was gonna scare us, baby. But what if it wasn't him? Do you hear what I'm saying? What if it was somebody else? And because of that small safety measure of not locking the door, not only did I leave myself wide open and could have been subject to attack, but I could have, like, this mother who has children and a family, our lives could have ended very quickly because of not taking the precautionary measure to lock the door. So I hope that this was helpful for you. Tell me in comments too, because I have some other like safety tips that I can give you, like when you're specifically hosting an open house. So if you want to get more videos or more podcasts about things like that, just go ahead and just go in comments and tell me. And listen, share this podcast. Share it with one of your real life real estate besties, with anyone who just has to think differently about how we are protecting ourselves, because there is a real threat and a real enemy. I do not want you to walk around in a spirit of fear. However, I do want you to be diligent and cognizant of the fact that everyone is not out for your good. And by following some of the tips that I share with you today, you're going to be able to just weed out some of those people so that you are best protecting yourself. And here's the thing, like, let's just say that they are really cool. They're not a predator, but they don't want to, follow some of these processes that I share with you. Then that just means they're going to be a difficult client anyway. And we're not doing difficult people in 2024 and beyond. I hope this was helpful, Bestie. I hope that you have a wonderful week. Please, please, please stay safe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye now. If you enjoyed this episode and you have a real life bestie that you think it would resonate with, y'all, do me a favor. Go ahead and hit that share button, because you know what? We are better together. Make sure you share the podcast, and I appreciate your reviews. I appreciate you giving me 5 stars more than you know. I'll talk to you next week.